Your attention, masters, mistresses. All systems functional for the Everything Geek podcast.
Hey, my name's Rich McDonald, and I played David Mason in Call of Duty Black Ops 2, and you're listening to Everything Geek podcast.
Hey everybody, you're listening to Everything Geek podcast. Thanks for listening.
Hey, it's Leif Gaffert. I played Uncle Ben's killer in The Amazing Spider-Man, and you're listening to the Everything Geek podcast.
Hello, I'm Simon Fisherbecker. You probably know me better as Dorian Moldovar from Doctor Who, or the Fat Friar from Harry Potter. And this is Everything Geek podcast.
Face it, Tiger. You just hit the jackpot with the Everything Geek podcast.
You're listening to the Everything Geek podcast, bringing you interviews from your favorite films and TV shows every week, and all of the latest news. Here's your host, Ruari Williamson.
Hello everyone, you're listening to the Everything Geek podcast. I'm your host Ruari, and joining me today is a very special guest. We have Amy Birnbaum, best known as the voice of Téa Gardner, Bonz and Sam in Yu-Gi-Oh!, the original voice of Max, Jessie's Dustox and Cascoon, and the voices of DJ Merry, Winona, Melody, Dundee, Luna, Carson and Molly Hale in Pokémon, Charmy Bee, Cosmo, Helen and Froggy in Sonic X, Charmy Bee and Shadow the Hedgehog, Mary and Sonic at the Olympic Games, and Mary and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games, Lilly and Shaman King, Lucy Liberty and F-Zero GP Legend, Chip and Cubix, Robots for Everyone, Scarlett and G.I. Joe Sigma 6, and Miss Father's Day in One Piece. She recently reprised the role of Téa for Yu-Gi-Oh! The Dark Side of Dimensions, and Téa and Bonz for Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. How are you today, Amy?
I'm great, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you.
So getting right into my questions to you, Amy, for some of our listeners that may not be familiar with your background, can you tell us how you got into acting originally?
Sure. Well, I've always been interested in theater and performing, and I grew up probably like a lot of fans listening that interested in musical theater and singing and performing in some way. So I was always doing the school plays and things like that. And I sang in an a cappella group in college, and I just sort of knew I wanted to do a little something. And I graduated from college with a child development degree and a media and communications degree, and I went right into kids media. And so I started working as a producer in children's television and kids media, and I still do. But through that work, I started doing voiceover acting on the side more as a hobby to help out projects I was working on. And then it started to pick up from there, where I thought, oh, maybe I can do this. And people started, sharing positive feedback, saying you should really try to do it. You're pretty good. And I was very fortunate to have met a gentleman in New York City who owned a recording studio. We had a mutual friend, and she said, oh, Amy does voiceovers for us at work. And he said, you should come in and audition for me. We're always looking for young female voices and young boy voices and young girls and anything. So come in and audition. And I did. And right away he said, you're great. I'm going to call you. And it was a really long time ago. And it was a very lovely and warm studio. And they were working on Pokémon at the time with 4 kids. And I don't think it was nearly it was just at the beginning. I think I started doing voiceovers for them in their 2nd season, where, the full cast had already been cast, and I was being pulled on to do a couple of stray voices here and there, guest girl characters and stray kids. And it was my first time doing something like that and getting paid for that. And it was great. It was a lot of fun. And so they would call me in, occasionally, not too often, but then it started to pick up, and then they wound up casting for the role of Max, and I read for it, and and that was probably my first regular role within the anime voice acting world. So I had no idea that there was a whole sort of anime dubbing world, but then that became my niche. And it was the kind of thing that I could do on the side while I worked full time. And that was kind of it. So the studio started acquiring more shows. They acquired Yu-Gi-Oh! And a few more, Sonic, G.I. Joe. They started acquiring more, and then eventually we started, all of the voice actors who worked at this small studio, we sort of moved over to the 4Kids studio, which was also based in New York City. And so there was, like most voice acting communities, it was a small community of voice actors, and we all, most of us sort of knew each other, and they called a lot of the same people in for different gigs. So that's why you see a lot of the same voices, sort of cross-pollinating across the shows.
Yeah, absolutely. And also one thing, and it's something that we should clarify for the listeners, is obviously there's a lot of talk, or rather, a lot of people online think that you retired from voice acting in 2009 because you kind of just weren't doing a lot of it or as frequently, like not really any regular roles or that much of it, but you didn't actually retire from voice acting at all, which is the actual truth, or to focus on what people thought was your music career or singing. So do you want to tell us what really happened?
Sure. I mean, I would love to have a singing career. I wish I had a singing career. I'm sure that the other Amy Birnbaum online who has a singing career is fantastic. She often gets credited for the voice work that I do, just with her picture on my Wikipedia page or whatever, my IMDb page. It doesn't matter. My parents, my mom and brother are up in arms about it. Like, you gotta get your right picture up there. I don't care. I'm sure she's amazing. Anyway, I did not retire so much as move. I think I mentioned that the studios that are doing a lot of the anime work are in New York City, and that's where I used to live, and it was easy to stay plugged into the community and just continue doing different shows. I moved to Atlanta, and a while ago, probably maybe back in 2000, I can't remember now, a while ago, and I continued to do a little bit of voice work with 4Kids and with the studios. I would fly back, or I would, travel back to the city to do a couple sessions. And every now and then, I'll still do recording for them, on the ISDN. But it's just generally easier for them to cast and work with the folks who are local and can just kind of come in and out. So I still do voiceover work from based in Atlanta. I recently worked on a pilot for a new anime show. I don't know where it's going, but I worked on that, so that was great. I do a lot of promo work. You might hear me on, random spots, commercials, and things like that for different networks and products, whatever. So, but I do still keep it somewhat on the side. It's kind of like my side gig.
I'm just glad that, for the listener's sake, we can finally clear that up once and for all.
Well, I'm happy to have the exclusive interview with you. I've never done an interview before, so.
Yeah, I actually meant to ask you about that before we started, but slipped my mind. Should I ask her if this is her first interview? And I'm like, I forgot. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Yep, definitely an exclusive.
I did, it maybe looks like I'm getting interviewed on the Yu-Gi-Oh! Movie DVD. And technically I was, but I was sort of recording myself, answering questions, because I wasn't in New York at the time. They had asked me to come in for the interview, and it was just easier to try to pre-record them. But I think this might be my first interview. One time I went to a a convention in New Zealand a long time ago, and I suppose I was interviewed there, but we were live, so it wasn't really. And I think I might have been like the least interesting character present, so I'm not sure anybody really wanted to ask me any questions, which is fine.
So how were you contacted to reprise the role of Téa for Yu-Gi-Oh! The Dark Side of Dimensions film?
The voice director on the movie, Darren Dunstan, and he's also a voice talent on a bunch of things. He used to be. He contacted me through Facebook, and one of the executive producers on the movie contacted me through Facebook, and a bunch of us are still connected, at least through Facebook. And he said, "Hey, he gave me sort of a long lead and said, "Hey, we're thinking about reviving the movie. Would you be interested in playing the role again?" And I was like, "Yeah, why not? That would be great." And so, I travel back and forth sometimes to New York because I have family in the area. So I said, "Well, I could fly in if you want, or we could record here." And the schedules just worked out where I recorded based here in Atlanta. But it was really pretty easy. He just reached out and I was like, "Hey, nice to hear from you. Absolutely. Let's do it." And he kind of said, "Everybody's bringing back the role. Everybody's coming back. So it would be great to have all the original voices on it again." And I don't think anybody was, I don't think anybody was not willing to do it. I think we were all excited to kind of come back and be a part of the show again.
Yeah, and that was one of the best parts about the film, was the fact that, pretty much all of the characters were voiced by the original performers. That's one of the things that I was most excited about, for sure.
That's awesome.
The one that voiced Yugi's granddad, obviously had passed away, so,
yeah.
That was the only difference, which was sad, but, the fact that they managed to get everyone back anyway, outside of her, was, still very impressive, which a lot of fans appreciated, for sure.
No, it was great. It was a lot of fun, and it was fun to hear everybody. When you record for anime, because you're spending most of your time trying to match what they call a lip flap. So because it's already been animated and voiced in Japanese, here in the States or anywhere, you're acting and performing, but you're also trying to match what they call the lip flap. So it is too challenging, or it can be, to do that in a room full of other actors, and it can take too long. So the way that we have in the past typically recorded is you're sort of on your own in a room, recording your part and skipping ahead. So when you're recording, you don't really see the whole movie. You see just your parts. So it wasn't really until recently that I saw the whole movie put together. I watched it with my kids, and it sounded awesome. It was really good. I know I sound surprised by that, but I'm on the voice recording side. I wouldn't necessarily say that I have Yu-Gi-Oh knowledge or expertise in any way. You're the fans, and you, I'm sure, know way more about it than I do. But and I hope that's not too disappointing. But it was real. I was really impressed with the quality of the film and the storyline, and yeah, it was fun. It was fun to watch it and hear all the original cast on it again.
I wonder why you watched the movie after all this time.
Well, you had asked me to come on the show, and I felt like I really needed to see it. And actually, the producers of the show had invited me to come down to New York to watch it together. I know the whole cast and crew and folks on the movie had gotten together in the city to watch a screening, and I couldn't make it at the time that they were doing it, so it was a bummer that I couldn't sort of share in it. I know that everybody was excited to be together, so I watched with my kids, and my daughter wasn't too interested. She's probably not falls outside of her interest, but my 7-year-old son was really into it. So we might have converted another Yu-Gi-Oh fan.
That would be amazing if that was the case. That would be brilliant. Yeah, so what would you say was the most challenging part of reprising the role of Téa?
I guess it's not a terribly challenging role for me because it's pretty close to my natural speaking voice. And it was always challenging to figure out how to play her and how to voice her when she was battling, in episodes. I always found it a little challenging because it always felt out of character for her. There weren't any moments like that in the film. She just was sort of good old supportive Téa. So I don't know that there was anything too challenging. Probably not being at the studio with others was probably tricky, or I should say, not having the director right there. He was patched in over the phone. Darren would, and it can be challenging to read all of the lines within a condensed period of time because your voice just can get tired. And but yeah, it wasn't really. I wouldn't say it was challenging. I would say it was mostly awesome and fun.
That's really cool. And speaking of Yu-Gi-Oh knowledge, and you mentioned Téa's duels there, here's a fun fact for you that I have to tell you. Téa is one of the few characters, in fact might be the only Yu-Gi-Oh character that has dueled more than twice and won every duel. And that's it. She's a character that hasn't even dueled that, doesn't even really duel. But she dueled 3 times and won all 3.
That is awesome. Thank you for that fun fact.
You did? Did you know that?
I didn't know that. And what else I didn't, like I was telling you earlier, I have been dueling because I didn't remember that I played this character, but in the movie I thought, I think I'm her too. But I think I'm Dark Magician Girl. I'm not 100% certain because, like I said, sometimes you voice characters and you don't always remember who you've played because they'll just say, oh, could you just throw in a couple of voices here, or could you just do some young people here or whatever. And I know that I threw in a couple of crowd scene women, but I think I'm Dark Magician Girl. If I'm wrong about that and the real voice actor who played her is sitting at home really mad that I've just taken credit for that, I'm so sorry. But I think I am. Yeah. So technically, if that's true, I think I've dueled.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look at that because, even in the original series, there was a specific person that did Dark Magician Girl. So, I'm trying to remember, was she in Dark Side of Dimensions in a small part? I don't think so. You could be right. If it was something like a Battle Scream or something, they could have just gotten anyone to do it, I guess. So,
yeah,
I'll look more into that.
We'll look into that, and then there have been a couple of Yu-Gi-Oh games, since the series. So, there have been mobile apps that came out. I think there's a Wii game. There's some Yu-Gi-Oh game that I think all the original actors to support the movie also. We all recorded for that as well, and yeah, I think I played her in that too in the games. Sorry, maybe to someone else, but yeah.
What did you think when you read the script for the Dark Side of Dimensions originally? Did you immediately feel like it was something the fans would enjoy?
Sure. Yeah, what's not to enjoy? You get to bring back the Pharaoh. You get to have some epic battles, and I was really liking the feature of Eric, or what's his name, Bakura?
Eric Stewart's character.
Yeah,
that's Kaiba.
Kaiba, right? Kaiba. I was really happy for him and happy for the character that they got that he got a call out, like a real feature. He was terrific in that, I thought.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree. even though Yugi is technically the main character of Yu-Gi-Oh, like, I kind of felt like it was a Kaiba film as well, just because he got so much development, and
Yeah.
Stuart had a lot to work with for sure.
Yeah, I thought he did great. And I was happy that that was a really cool role for him and a cool storyline for him. So, yeah, I'll be honest, I didn't see the whole script before I read it. You know, they hadn't, they're very, I think that the crew and the cast are very, and this could have been because I was, you know, here, like outside of the New York area, but I didn't see the script really till I got to the studio. So I was kind of learning about it as I was recording. So, yeah, I really didn't have a full sense of the storyline until I watched it.
Yeah, it's the best way to watch something, though. You know, not having a complete picture in your head before you watch it.
Yeah.
What would you say was the highlight of voicing Téa on Yu-Gi-Oh, whether it was for the new film or the original series? But that might be a bit too long ago to remember.
I think the highlight has just been it was having that regular, you know, having a regular series, being able to, she was always very, very kind and supportive friend with a little sass. So I think it was always fun to play. I prefer the characters who have a little bit of sass, because I think I'm generally like that too. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it was a nice time in my life. So I think that was a highlight of just being part of that community and having that regular show all the time and being able to kind of hear everybody in my headphones all the time. And yeah, I will say the highlight for the movie with Téa was seeing how they sort of amped up her outfits. She aged up. They dressed her pretty provocatively in this movie, so that was kind of funny.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the things that was, you know, interesting about the film is, like, unlike the TV shows where there is sometimes censorship, you know, in terms of, like, violence or, like, even in terms of clothing, like, they would, like, you know, censor that a lot on the show, but in the movie they just left everything the way it was in the Japanese version. So yeah, that, I think that extends to the clothing that you're referring to as well.
Yeah.
In terms of Pokemon, obviously, when the major cast change happened, you were voicing Max in a regular role, as we talked about a bit earlier. How did you find out that yourself and the rest of the main cast on Pokemon at the time were going to be replaced?
Not good. I mean, I think we were all pretty bummed that the series was continuing without us. It was if I remember correctly, it was a kind more of a political situation. You know, the show had moved control, or the folks who were the production company who was managing the show lost the rights, but we all worked for that production company, and so we weren't able to. And I don't really remember like the details of it, but all we had learned was, I think, 4Kids no longer managed Pokemon, and it was moving back to maybe Pokemon USA, and we had all signed contracts to be exclusive to 4Kids, and so we didn't really have a choice, I don't think. We had hoped that, I think, Pokemon would, you know, use the same characters, and hoped that maybe they would want to have the original characters on it, but I don't really know what the situation was. So I think we were all a little surprised and bummed. But, you know, business is business. That's how it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Out of all of the productions you've worked on in your career, which would you say was the most challenging, and why?
Probably Bonz was one of the hardest characters, just on my voice physically. on the vocal cords. When I auditioned for that character, I didn't think I was gonna. It's one of those things where you go big on the audition, and I was just giving it all I had, and then I was like, oh wait, you want me to play that role? All right. And so much, and then he was in this really big featured episode or two, a couple of featured episodes, and he had a lot of lines. And then they reprised him in one of the video games recently. So that's just a challenging role to play because it's a hard voice to maintain. And maybe, was it Scarlett, the one in G.I. Joe?
Yeah, that's correct.
She was atypical for me because I generally get cast to do young girls and young boys and kids. So to play like this very, more sophisticated, serious villain was maybe, more of a stretch for me. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you brought up Bonz because I actually intended to earlier because, like, he is only in a few episodes, really, but, I mean, that voice, like, I can really picture that being challenging for you, and then to hear that he's in Duel Links, just like Téa is, the video game, like, I was like, it's really great that you reprised both roles for the game as well, and I'm like, Bonz, that voice is just going to, like, really be challenging all over again for you.
Yeah. I probably, outside of some of the anime world, I've done a bunch of video game roles, and one of the projects I worked on was for Scholastic. We made an app or they did for Magic School Bus, and they needed someone to play Miss Frizzle, and they were like, can you give that a try? And so I wound up recording just for the app, not at all for the shows, and not for the new one that I think is on Netflix, but just for the app. And that was pretty challenging, mainly because I was like, I will never, ever, ever, ever be anything close to Lily Tomlin. So, in the original, so I didn't know what to do. So I just felt like it felt to me like it was wrong. I mean, I hope it sounded okay in the game. But so that was challenging mostly for me personally, because I'm like, I don't want to sound like I'm trying to imitate her, or I hope I sound authentic and normal, but yeah, that was it.
And my final question for you, Amy, do you have any upcoming acting roles or any other projects that you would like to talk about?
Not really. Like I said, I worked on a pilot very recently, and if that gets picked up, then that could turn into something more. Who knows? But it's certainly not definite. And yeah, like I said, I'm mostly just working on promo things, but I hope there's more stuff. I think more animation and more anime is coming to Atlanta. I've heard that, and I think the voiceover animation community is growing here. So hopefully there'll be more projects on the horizon.
Definitely, for sure. That's all of my questions for you today, Amy. It's been a pleasure talking to you on the podcast.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I appreciate it. It's really nice.
You're very welcome. Hopefully we can talk to you again sometime.
Okay, sounds great.
Yeah, talk to you again soon then. Thanks again for joining us, and take care. Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
Time to wrap up today's show. Make sure to check out our podcast links. Check out our website, website.everythinggeekpodcast.com/egp. Check out our Facebook page, www.facebook.com/everythinggeekpodcast. Check out our YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/user/everythinggeekcast. Check us out on Twitter, twitter.com/everythinggeekp. Check us out on Instagram, instagram.com/official Everything Geek Podcast. Check out our Mixcloud profile, www.mixcloud.com/everythinggeekpodcast. Email us at the following email, everythinggeekpodcast@gmail.com. Check out our companion podcast, Everything Geek Comiccast, www.facebook.com/everythinggeekcomiccast. Make sure to check out the hosts' YouTube channels. Mine is www.youtube.com/user/Septus Destroyers. Check out Amy Birnbaum's full list of credits on IMDb, www.imdb.com/name/nm008367 and check out channel 1138 where we broadcast live from, www.channel1138.com. Geeks out, everyone.
As I was going through the script while we were recording, that's when I learned about it, same way that you would learn about it when you'd watch the movie. What I did like was the dialogue was more mature. The storyline was a little darker. I always thought
he works for, who he serves. Yes, he's a loyal servant, and a powerful one at that. He's mastered these arcane arts, but that's it. That's his role.